Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Pathfinder Connect. Today we'll be looking at one of the topics in the Club Ministry Training Manual. Club Ministries Training Manual. When you look at the picture that is here, this picture right here, what comes into mind? What comes into mind? Let me give you about 5 seconds to ponder about it before we begin. But before we actually begin, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so that whenever we upload new material or new videos, you'll be able to get a notification. Okay, without wasting much time, let's get into today's presentation. Today we are looking at club programming and planning. We are looking at club programming and planning. All right. Objectives for this presentation is to develop familiarity with activities and features that is in the Pathfinder program. Please, I might say Pathfinder, but if you're an adventurer leader, it comes into play also for you. You can just remove wherever it says Pathfinder, just look at it as adventurer. Okay, it can also benefit you very well. All right, to provide a background for leaders that will enable them to plan and coordinate a successful ministry within a local Pathfinder club. Okay, in this presentation, we'll be looking at your year program. We'll be looking at year programs. We'll be looking at weekly club meetings. We'll be looking at record cards and passports. We will also look at your local conference or your union or division programs. We'll be looking at those ones also. We'll be looking at investiture. So basically, this presentation is taking you from the beginning of the year to the end of the year. So you're looking at from enrollment night to investiture day. Okay, all right, so let's look at the year program. The Pathfinder director and staff need a clear understanding of objectives to be reached during the Pathfinder year. What does this mean? Before you even approach your church or your local church board as a director with your staff, who are the staff? You have your teachers, your instructors, your deputy director, your counselors. You must all sit and plan what you are willing to achieve within the coming year. You must sit and plan that ahead. The general aim is to help meet the growing needs of junior youth. The program is not for you, the leaders. The program is for the children. It's for the Pathfinders. It's for the adventurers. All right. Leading the Pathfinder through a course of study towards final recognition in an investiture service is the means to reach many of the objectives. What does it mean? The whole program is basically centered around the objectives of helping the Pathfinders finish the curriculum, helping the adventurers finish the year curriculum. So you must plan your program in a way that you have all your club meetings. What are we going to teach? What are we going to do? Which honors are we going to do? Which requirement in the curriculum are we going to do at what time? So when you do all of that, then it leads you towards the investiture. It is in a well-planned year program in which all 5 facets are included that the objectives may be reached. Back to the point I made earlier, when you have all these in your year program and you follow the year program, that is the only way you are going to reach your objectives. The normal Pathfinder year is based on a 10-month calendar. It's based on a 10-month calendar. Why are we saying it's based on a 10-month calendar? We all know that induction is enrollment night and inductions are done in January. They are mostly done in January. So for the month of January, there isn't much you can do when it comes to activities. And then for the month of December, there isn't much you can do because most of your kids, the family has planned Christmas holidays and all of that for the kids. So because of that, there isn't much you can do in December. So that leaves you with February to November. February to November. So from February to November, all your activities have to fill in there. All your activities have to fill in there. So you have, let's say for example, you want to do spiritual development from the beginning of February. So from the beginning of February, do spiritual development, and then you plan it to go to that you are going to do 1, 2, 3, and 4, and then investiture at the end, testing and investiture in November. Then you are set. That gives you 10 months. So let's look at an example of a year program. I will make this presentation available. I'll put a link in the description below that will take you to Google Drive. That will help you to access all our PowerPoint presentations. Okay, so now let's look at an example. So you have this specific one is just an example. So let's look at the month of January. So in the month of January, from the top, in the month of January, we have January 1 to 3. It says staff meeting. So the date, event, time, and dress code. Please pay attention. Dress code. Dress code is very important because there are some activities you can't wear a certain uniform there. For example, you can't wear your standard class A, which is your white and green Pathfinder uniform. You can't wear that and go for hiking. But your club t-shirt can be worn to go for hiking. So you have to specify as leaders what dress code you want at that specific meeting or that specific event. So let's take it from the top. From the 1st to the 3rd of January, we have staff meeting. We have the time at 6 p.m. Uniform is Class A uniform. On the 8th, we have regular meetings from 6 to 8 p.m. Field uniform. On the 13th, we say we have enrollment night from the 6 to the 9, from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. We say we are wearing club t-shirt. Remember, these are just examples. And then on the 30th of January, we say we are having induction, 10 a.m. in the morning, Class A uniform. So you see, this is just an example. And if you look at everything going down, we have honors on February 15, and he says it will be taught by the elder of the church. Why? Maybe the honor is a sanctuary honor, and we feel like, okay, the elder is very good in teaching sanctuary honor. If you go all the way down, we have Global Youth Day, which is an event that is planned by the General Conference. You must infuse that into your program. We have a camp out. We have honor that says CHM, which is Children's Ministries. Why is it saying Children's Ministries? Maybe there's a specific honor you deem that it's better they do it with the Children's Ministries leader, because maybe he or she is very good in teaching that. We have field trips, we have bush camps, we have, let's look down here, we have Pathfinder Fair. Here it says KNFC. I'm using KNFC because I'm from the KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference. So you will see a lot of KNFC in my presentations. All right. So here we have KNFC Pathfinder Fair. We have World Pathfinder Day. All right. And then you have our testing and our investiture around October, November. So this is a typical example of how your year program should look like. Okay. Now, someone may ask, what about those of us who are still using the district youth council structure, the district youth council structure, as my local conference is doing? All right. Here is a typical example of mine district, my local district calendar that was done for the Pathfinders. It's done to help the Pathfinders or the leaders to achieve their goal. All right, so let's look at this. It has event, it has date, event, and venue. So first quarter, and the first quarter in January, we have spiritual development. Spiritual development, it says all clubs. All right, it comes all the way down to the second quarter. Second quarter, we have outdoor life. We have district Pathfinder camp. We have district Pathfinder camp. We have nature study. We have media curriculum assessment. Why do you have media curriculum assessment? Because most of these kids, if you leave them to assess them at the end of the year, they tend to forget most of the things they've learned. So to help them achieve their goal, to help them and to accept everyone, to incorporate everyone regardless of how they understand the curriculum, it makes it easier if you assess them in the middle of the year and then you assess them again at the end of the year. So you divide your assessment into two. You have your second quarter assessment and your fourth quarter assessment, which is the final assessment. If you look inside here, you have KNFC Pathfinder Fair, the same KNFC Pathfinder Fair that we saw in the main year program of the local club. That same one comes into play in the district level planning. All right, and then you have your final assessment in October and then your investiture in December. You can throw in things like outing. You can throw in things like India outing just for them to cool down, to relax for the work they've done in the year as the year was going on. All right. Now, there are things you need to look out for when you are making a year plan. Sometimes we make mistakes in our year plan and then you find that our events are clashing. Our events are clashing. What are some of these things we need to look out for? What are some of these things we need to look out for? Okay, you have to look at your local conference's calendar. Your local conference calendar. Why am I saying this? Because some of the events are trickling down from general conference, coming down to your local conference. For example, you have World Pathfinder Day, which is an event or a calendar date that is set by the general conference. And when that date is there, you should not have other events clashing with that event on your calendar. We also have your division. You have your local division calendar, which your local division calendar have things like, for example, your local division might be planning a camporee. Your local division might be planning a camporee. You should have that on your program so that on that week or that weekend, you do not find yourself wanting as a leader. And then we come down to your union. Maybe this year your union is planning a Pathfinder Fair for the entire union. For the entire union, you should find that in your calendar so that your leaders will know that this is what they have and this is what they're planning for. Okay, have a planning committee. As a leader, you shouldn't sit somewhere in a corner and put things together and come and say, this is what we are doing. Don't sit somewhere and put things together and come and say, this is what we are doing. You should have a committee that sits and look at every inch, every corner of all the programs that are given to you, from general conference to your local conference, even to your district. If you are a local church leader, if you're a local club leader, if you're a Pathfinder club leader, you should have all the calendars given to you from the general conference to your local district. Then you can sit with your planning committee and make sure that things do not clash. Okay, dates shouldn't clash, as I've said. Dates shouldn't what? Clash. And the main thing to do for your dates not to clash is by looking at all these calendars that are before you. Follow the scoring plan. Follow the scoring plan. Report card of the conference. Some conferences provide report cards. And if you follow that report card, it helps you to actually achieve your goal. For example, we all know that some conference, according to the Pathfinder Administrative Manual, each club director is supposed to submit a monthly report and a quarterly report. So looking at that monthly report and the quarterly report, it helps you to achieve your goal. It helps you to achieve the overall goal of the conference. For example, if the conference has a score or a report card that says you should do induction and enrollment within the month of January and then start your activities in the month of February, if you do not do that and you go and do your enrollment and induction in February, when all clubs are done and being invested in November, you will still you'll be behind by 1 month. And you will find out that your conference is closed for the month of December because they also made holiday plans with their families. Okay. Weekly club meetings. Weekly club meetings. We have program module A and module B. Program module A and program module B. We are going to look into details what is program module A and program module B. We're going to look at sample meeting timetable. We're going to look at an example of a meeting timetable for these two models. For these two models. All right. Steps in planning a weekly meeting. We're going to look at steps in planning a weekly meeting. Remember, you've done your timetable for the entire year. And in the entire year, every week, the club has to meet. Every week, the club has to meet. So when the club is meeting, then what are you supposed to do in those meetings? What planning are you making for those weekly meetings? We will look into that. So now let's look at teaching plan, which is the module A and the module B. A detailed plan for each model is outlined in the beginning of each class section in the teacher's resource manual. So when you look at your teacher's manual, whether it's a friend class or a companion class or a guide class, all the teacher's manual has an outline on how to go about these models. All right. If these teachers' plans are followed, every requirement will be completed in the 10-month period, including camp outs and bi-monthly events. Camp out and bi-monthly events. What do you mean by bi-monthly events? There are some months, for example, we all know that there are camp meetings that are set by, if you are in KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference, you know that there are camp meetings that are set by the district leaders, the DMC. So if the DMC says, okay, in the month of March, we are going to have our camp meeting, or in the month of June, July, we're going to have our camp meeting, then you know, okay, June, July, there's camp meeting, and there's also, on your timetable, there's also Pathfinder camp out. There's also Pathfinder camp out. So you'll be able to sit and then juggle the timetable around and put things together to say, okay, if there's camp meeting and we are supposed to be teaching, let's say, spiritual development on the month of June, July, but there is camp meeting, then how then do we incorporate spiritual development into the camp meeting so that the kids don't get bored? Because remember, at camp meetings, it's mostly from breakfast to lunchtime, it's CHM. And then from lunch to supper, that is where the Pathfinder leaders and the adventure leaders comes into play. So that time is where you are going to incorporate all your activities. So your plan also help you to do all of that. Your plan also helps you to do all of that. Okay, so that is basically what we have here. Okay, so that's basically what we have here. Okay, now let's go into details of these meetings. Okay, the Pathfinder can achieve the aim of the program only if regular meetings are conducted. You cannot expect the Pathfinder to achieve the goal or the objectives of the year if you are only going to have club meetings this week, the next week there's no club meetings. Sometimes we find ourselves, remember, yes, we understand that this is a voluntary event and program, or let me put it that way, but when you have been given the position as a director or as an instructor or as a teacher, Please try your best to be at all the club meetings. Try your best to be at all the club meetings. If you're not going to be available, let the director know at hand so that he can find someone to replace you for that week. Because you are very much important in helping the Pathfinder achieve its goals. These meetings can be conducted according to the needs of the local club. It can be conducted according to the needs of the local club. No one is forcing you to have your meeting on Sabbath afternoon or Sabbath evening. No one is forcing you to have it on a Sunday. We are all not in the same geographical area. We are all not in the same, We are not facing the same challenges. All right. So depending on which day or which time frame fits the local club, you have the choice of choosing when you want to do your meetings. Okay. There are 2 modules suggested from which the local church can choose, as we said earlier. I'll go to this module A and module B. Okay. It is possible for a church to change from module to module each year and also during the year. Maybe module A is working for you for maybe 3-4 months, and then you find out that, okay, module A, actually for the months that are coming, module A is not going to work for us because it's winter, or because it's summer, or because it's raining. So because of that, you are allowed to change module to module. As I said, we are not in the same geographical area. All right. Now let's look at module A. This is conducted in a 1 3-hour section with opening and closing ceremony, marching, games, curriculum, and craft, all integrated into one program. What does this mean? You have a 3-hour period, and from the beginning of the 3 hours to the end of the 3 hours, you are doing all this in there. There are no breaks in there. You can't say, I'm going to do 1 hour now, and then let me sit, maybe after 2 hours break, let me go and do the other 2 hours. All right. So let's say, for example, if your meeting is from 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, it's 12 o'clock to 3 o'clock, no break. The breaks are in the program. Okay. So let's look at how this module A looks like. So this module A comes just as easy as that. You have the time, and then you have the activity. The time and activity. So the first 15 minutes is your opening ceremony, flags, prayers, and inspection. Opening ceremony, flags, prayers, and what? Inspection. The 10 minutes is drill, club or unit. It's either they drill together as a club or as a unit. All right. For the 15 minutes, the next 15 minutes, you are going to have a speaker or a devotional person. A speaker or a devotional person. Now, this speaker or devotional person can be anyone. It can even be a Pathfinder, a counselor. It can be the pastor or the local church elder. We will go into details when we get to the later part of the presentation. 30 minutes of classwork, indoor or outdoor activity, depending on what your program is saying. Depending on what your year program is saying. If your year program is saying that we are doing the hike and honor, that means this classwork is going to be outdoor. All right. And then you have a 30-minute game or fair practice. Games or fair practice. Maybe that year you have Pathfinder Fair coming up. Maybe you have Pathfinder Fair competition or Pathfinder Fair coming up. So you need to prepare. So that 30 minutes goes into the preparation of the Pathfinder Fair activities. All right. And then they'll come back for another 30 minutes classwork, indoor or outdoor. Indoor or outdoor. As I said, it also depends on your class, your year program, whether it's going to be indoor or it's going to be outdoor. And then 45 minutes of honors, hobbies, or craft. Honors, hobbies, or crafts. So for the 45 minutes, you can choose to teach honors if your program requires you to teach honors. If not, you can do hobbies or you can do crafts. All right. And then the last 5 minutes of your 3 hours goes into announcements and benedictions. goes into announcement and benedictions. So this announcement and benedictions, maybe that is where you are going to tell the Pathfinders that our next meeting is on this day and this is the uniform that you're supposed to be in. Our next meeting is on this day and this is the uniform you are supposed to be in. Or that is where you also tell them that, okay, after sitting down, because it's announcement, after sitting down as church board, we have decided that we are changing the module to module P. Changing from module A to module B. That is where you let the Pathfinders know. All right. Now let's look at module B. Module B, this is a 3-hour program but conducted in 2 separate segments. These are 3 hours. This is a 3-hour program, just like module A, but it's conducted in 2 separate segment. Okay. Segment 1 is a 1 hour Pathfinder, 1 hour of Pathfindering on Sabbath. It's 1 hour of Pathfindering on Sabbath, featuring fellowship and curriculum activities. All right, that's segment 1. Segment 2 is a 2-hour Pathfindering, including marching, games, curriculum, crafts, and opening and closing ceremony. This can be done maybe on a Sunday. So, for example, you go to church and then after lunch, you decide, okay, let's do 1 hour of our curriculum activities or our program. And then on Sunday when we meet, we're going to do the other 2 hours. All right, we're going to do the other 2 hours. So let's look into that module B. So in module B, we said we have segment 1, which is 1 hour. So in that 1 hour, you're going to have 10 minutes of opening ceremony. Please pay attention. All our meetings has opening ceremony and closing ceremony. All right, all our club meetings have opening and closing ceremony. So it's 10 minutes opening and closing ceremony. Opening ceremony. We have 10 minutes object lesson or quiz, something to entertain them. Something, maybe it can be you asking them questions about the previous club meetings activities. It can be that. 30 minutes of curriculum, 7 minutes of special feature. What do you mean by special feature? Maybe you want to use that 7 minutes to look at what is bothering the youth or the Pathfinders. What do they want to see change? Maybe there are some ideas they want to share with you as a leader. Here is the right time to bring it up. Here is the right time to bring it up. And then the last 3 minutes is announcement and benediction. Please notice 3 minutes because you still have another 2 hours the following day. All right. You still have 2 hours the following day, which is segment 2. So, like I said, opening ceremony again. Opening ceremony again for 10 minutes. 15 minutes devotional. It can be a guest, it can be a pastor, it can be anyone that can give them a devotion. All right. 15 minutes games and fair practice. 15 minutes game and fair practice. 30 minutes curriculum. 30 minutes curriculum. 40 minutes of honest hobbies or crafts. 40 minutes of honest hobbies or crafts. And then the last 10 minutes goes into closing ceremony and benediction. Closing ceremony and benediction. Okay. Now let's look at our planning guide. This is an example of a planning guide. In the planning guide, you have activity, the committee action, and source material. The activity, committee action, and source material. So let's look at opening ceremony, because remember, we named all this in our weekly program. So when it comes to opening ceremony, which committee action is taking place? So the committee decides for the formation of the Pathfinder during parade. Because opening ceremony, they have to be in parade, right? Position and duties for each staff member during the parade. Who is going to do what? Who is going to do what? Here is where it comes into play during the opening ceremony. Where do we find this? We find this in the Pathfinder drill manual. We find it in the Pathfinder drill manual. So depending on which division or conference or union you are in, please pay attention to your drill manual. It is in there. All right. Drill. When it comes to the activity of drill, the committee elects a drill instructor and assistant. A drill instructor and assistant. Why do you need an assistant? Because maybe the instructor will not be available in one of the meetings the assistant can take place. Once again, it's found in the drill manual. Devotion. The committee, which committee are we talking about again? The planning committee. The committee elects a club chaplain or vote on a worship duty list. Worship duty list, which means the Pathfinders get to take turns, or the counselors or the staff gets to take turns into who is doing devotion on what day. All right. Where is it found? It's found in the staff, members, church, pastors, or school teachers, etc. So these are these are the resources. Remember, not all resources are material. Some resources are human. Some resource materials are human. All right. Curriculum. The committee give careful study to the appointment of class teachers. They carry the responsibility of leading the Pathfinders to investiture. So it is the duty of the committee to actually make sure that they have selected the right people to teach the classes, to teach the curriculum, so that they don't find themselves wanting, or the class does not find itself wanting when it's time for investiture. What resource materials are needed? Manuals for all the classes or the class requirement are available from the youth ministries department, from your youth ministries department. So for example, if you are within the KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference, you should be getting all the materials, all the class manuals from the KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference Youth Ministries Department. All right. Games, fair, practice. The committee once again elects a staff member to be responsible for recreational activities such as games, camping, fair practice, hiking, picnics, etc. So they appoint members to be in charge of all of these activities. So when the time comes, these members already know what they are doing. All right. Where can we find resource? Church materials on games. Check local authorities, because if you are going for hiking, the local authorities have to know who is hiking on their premises. Right? They must know all of that. Hobbies, honors, and craft. Ascertain craft teachers in the church. We have church members in the church that knows how to do things. All right. For example, if you have a carpenter in the church, you don't have to struggle yourself. You don't have to become a jack of all trades as a director to force yourself to teach carpentry honor. There is a carpenter in the local church. Use that carpenter. All right. Use that carpenter. The same thing applies to other things like plumbing. If you want to teach first aid, you have a nurse or a doctor in the church. Let that person teach first aid. It's better that way. All honor requirements are listed in the Pathfinder Honor Handbook, available from your Youth Ministries Department. Closing ceremony as above from the opening ceremony is the same. Closing ceremony and opening ceremony is the same. All right. Now let's look at our record cards and passports. The Pathfinder class record card, which lists the requirement, leaving room for the authorized signature of verification. The card is preferably kept by the secretary in the club file. So each child is given a record card that shows that since you have the manual, the teacher has the teacher's manual, the kid has the handbook, and then there's a record card, which is like a checklist whereby everything is checked by the secretary or by the class teacher that, okay, the kid has done 1, 2, 3, and 4. They check it and it's given to the secretary of the club, who keeps it safe for the time where you have to request for testing, so that it's easier for you to work these things out. They are handed out to the counselors or unit scribes when classwork begins, as I said earlier. Okay. In the event that the passport is not being used, 2 cards may be used for each Pathfinder, one for the club record and the other for the club members. All right, so sometimes you go to camps and you are given passports, and then stamps and signatures from the instructors are given for the honors that you learn. So you have to also pay attention to those passports, keep them safe, because those passports, at the end of everything, the passports are what you are going to use to buy your honors. Because if you go to a local conference uniform shop to buy honors, they will ask for proof that you have actually done these honors. And the passport is a significant proof that you've done them. The Pathfinder passport has pages designated for each class, either a system of stamps or listed requirements like those on the record card. As I said earlier, stamps can be used by the instructor or by the counselors that the Pathfinder has done on a 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now let's look at our conference events. It can be general conference all the way to local conference. Since I'm in the Southern African Union, we are looking at, this was one of the events that happened. As you can see, it says Pathfinder Campori. This tells you that it's not only your local conference that can plan a Campori. The union can also plan a Campori. All right, the union can also plan a Campori. My dear friend, what do you have for me? It says they have the fairs and the Campori. Please, as leaders, let's pay attention to this. Keep the competitive nature in the fairs. When you plan your Pathfinder fair, that is where the competitive nature is supposed to be. And then at the Camporis, we are there to teach. Please don't mix them up, because the time that you are using to do competitions at the Campori, that time could have been used to teach some specific honors. Don't push things and give the kids 1 hour, 2 hour honor period just because you want to have competitions at the Campori. Keep the competitive nature at the fairs, teach at the Camporis. Don't mix them up. All right. Now, when it comes to fairs and Camporis, what are the things you have to look at? As a leader, if you are planning a fair, you must have a theme. Because the theme sets the tone for everything that is needed. The theme sets the tone for everything that is needed. The theme tells you where your venue is going to be, what equipment are needed. All right. Registration. You have to lay it bare. When is registration ending? Else you're going to find yourself receiving registration fee the day of the camp, the day the camp is starting, if you don't set a closing date for your registration. New clubs. Allow new clubs to come to the fair, even if they are not coming to compete, because they get to know how things are done, what is expected of them the next year or at the next event. So if there's a new club, do not say it's a new club and because they're not coming to compete, they are not allowed there. Allow them to be there. Uniforms. Please, as a leader, be specific as to which uniforms will be worn at the fair at what time. And as a club leader, you should make sure that all your uniforms for your kids are in order. All the uniforms, the badges, the pins, everything, the scarves, everything is in place. All right. Awards. Are you going to give awards? How is the award scheme going to be? Are you going to give it as thank you for participating, or are you going to give it as first place in drill and marching, second place in drill and marching, first place in Trust My Knot, second place in Trust My Knot, first place in first aid? You have to have an award scheme and lay it bare. Let everyone know so that you don't end up having some fight here and there, because we all know people get to become very sensitive when it comes to the fair. Okay, flags and guidance. Please make sure that your flags, which are your Pathfinder flag, Adventurer flag, depend on which camp you're going to, your national flag, your guidon flags per each unit. Your guidon flag per each unit is also there. Food booth. If you are a club and you want to sell food in or with the purpose of raising some money or raising some funds, you have to approach the relevant authorities. For example, if you are within KwaZulu-Natal Free State Conference and you are willing or you wish to sell maybe some snacks for the kids that will be at the fair, make sure that you approach the conference leaders that, okay, Club ABC would want to sell these food items at this fair, and then they will give you a permission and they will allocate a place for you to sell. Don't just show up with your food items and sell there. They can take it and confiscate it, and it will be within their right to do that. Okay, parade. Are you going to have a parade at the fair? Maybe the aim is that this fair, we are going to use this fair to campaign to that area where we are, that yes, there is an organization called the Pathfinder Club, and you can also use that to recruit. So are you going to have a parade? Are you using the parade as a form of evangelism? Let them know, and let them know at hand as to which uniform will also be worn. Okay, club booth. Your crafts and the display of your honors. For example, let's say you did seats honor. The seats honor requires you to collect some number of seats. You have to display them in a booth. Make sure your booth is well built, and once you are done, you call the relevant people to come and inspect your booth. Judging. As the organizers of the event, make sure that your judges know what is expected of them. Let them know the score line for each activity so that they don't find themselves wanting, so that they don't find themselves doing different things. So your judges must be on point. Don't just bring any judge just because you wish this person to be a judge. Bring people who are qualified, people who knows what the activity is all about, so they can really judge the correct way. Now let's look at camporees. In most cases, a registration fee for each camporee and staff, for each Pathfinder and staff member is charged to help defray expenses. All right. So remember these expenses. What expenses are we talking about? The campsite must be paid for. The materials for this camporee, because camporees, we are there to teach. So there are materials. For example, if you are going to teach automobile mechanics, there should be a module engine to show how the engine works. Or if maybe someone is willing to donate his car, that person must be compensated for. So all of these are expenses. If you're going to teach bridges, whether you're going to use craft sticks, they have to be paid for or they have to be bought. So all of these are expenses that the registration money covers. Okay, all Pathfinders must camp in units by clubs. Each unit must have one adult counselor. A complete unit should consist of not more than 8 Pathfinders. Unit must be made up of all of one gender with no mixing of the sexes. What does it mean? Per each 8 Pathfinders, you must have a counselor. Per each Pathfinder, 8 Pathfinders, you must have a counselor. And you cannot have a male counselor dealing with female Pathfinders. You can't have a female counselor dealing with male Pathfinders. And you can't have a mixture of male and female within one unit. So a unit is made up of one sex, one gender. All right. Each club is self-sustaining. That means that each club will have its own food, cooking equipment, bedding, tent, and so on and so forth. Yes. So at the camporee, the club should be self-sustaining. Everything they need must come from the club's pocket, not from the conference. Must come from the club's pocket. What do we mean? If the club needs to buy food, the church must make sure the club has enough money to buy food. They cannot go to the conference and ask for money for food, because the conference is a non-profit organization. So you can't be going to them asking for money. All right. The camping arrangement is by clubs. Each club is responsible for its own arrangement of youth to camp in separate sections. What do we mean? It goes back to the top part. We camp according to clubs, not according to a cluster of clubs. So, for example, my club and your club, we are not together. I do my things, I cook for myself, I have my own camp tent, I find my own transport to campsite. Same applies to you. We don't mismatch. But once a while, you find out that some clubs are doing it to cut costs because maybe they find themselves in the same area. Maybe they are close by each other. So they organize their own transport together just so to cut costs. But typically, it's not supposed to be like that. Okay, now let's look at some suggested campsite layout. We have layout 1, and layout 2. Let's look at layout 1. Layout 1 gives us the diamond shape. So let's look at this. We have the directors. What do you say about the directors? So we have a director, we have the counselors here. So if you look at this, the director and the counselors, let's count this tent. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So this is a unit of 8 girls, and they have their guidon flag. This is a unit of 8 boys, and they have their guidon flag. That means this counselor is a male, this counselor is a female, and then you have the director in the middle. And then here you have your flags, your national flag and your club flag. Your national flag and your club flag. All right. Now, in some cases, you can choose not to have the national flag because one national flag, according to flag protocol, is raised for the entire camp. So, if you are camping as at a camporee or at a fair which is organized by a conference or a union, that means there will be one national flag that has been raised for the entire camp. That means here you can have your club flag and your club banner. You can have the Pathfinder club flag and your Pathfinder club banner. All right. Now let's look at arrangement 2 or camp layout 2. Camp layout 2 is the U shape. It's what you call the U shape. You have one leg of the U, you have the center part and the other part of the U. Once again, you have 8 units of girls, 8 units of boys. You have their guidon flags, and then you have their counselors and the director. And then in the middle, in front of the director's tent, you then have what we call your Pathfinder club flag and your club banner. All right. So that is how you set up your camp layout. You can choose between the two. Okay. Now let's look at investiture. The year is about to end. Now you are doing investiture. Okay. Usually the Pathfinder leader will notify the conference or mission youth director that the candidates are ready for investiture and a date is set for the meeting. So usually you have to inform the conference director that you want to do investiture, because remember, your class pins on the day of investiture are coming from where? The conference. They're the ones you buying them from. So they have to know that you are actually doing an investiture. All right. Before the investiture, all the requirements must have been completed and the permanent signed off Pathfinder class record card. What does it mean? It means that the program that you plan to with, that you will be doing A on this meeting, B on that meeting, camp out that meeting. All of those requirements must have been met before you start looking at investiture. Okay, that is what it means. Personnel who may be involved in the investiture and their responsibilities. Whoever that is involved in the investiture must be informed and as to what they will be doing. Don't meet me on the day of investiture and come and tell me that you need me to command the parade that is coming in for investiture. Don't meet me on that day and tell me to do that. Let me know maybe a week to a month back so I can adjust my calendar and prepare myself for that. Maybe my uniform is not in order, so I can get my uniform in order. All right, so let the personnel know what is what their responsibilities are. Recognize those who have completed their Pathfinder classwork. Recognize them. How do you recognize them? By giving them their class pens. If someone did the advanced requirement, give them their advanced bars. All right. Inspire those not involved in the work to do so. Inspire them by letting them know what they get from completing the class, so that next time they will also try and do their best. Do not judge them. Do not judge them. Do not shame them. We are not in the business of shaming kids. We are in the business of motivating kids and bringing them closer to Jesus Christ. Okay. Inform the church and committee and the community what the Pathfinder class is all about. Inform them as to what the Pathfinder club is all about. Let them know the activities that the kids have been doing and what they are actually achieving from that. Communicate to the youth the plans for the future, or for future events, the plans for future events. Remember, the year is ending. Let them know that next year we have a plan of doing 1, 2, 3, and 4 as it's in the pipeline, because you are going to meet with your what? With your committee, your planning committee, and come up with a new calendar for the coming year. All right. So I have been David Poku, and you have been my guest for this presentation from the CMT manual, the Club Ministry Training Manual. Thank you very much, and I will see you in the next presentation.